Welcome to Brandstorm, the podcast that talks to the people behind America's brands. I'm Dan Trzynski, president of Platypus Advertising and Design.
And I'm Nancy Christopher, PR director at Platypus. If a company wants to be relevant, it's really all about the customer experience, right?
No question.
Our guest today knows all about making guests happy. Please welcome Joe Bravo, director of bars and entertainment at the Hark Rock Hotel in San Diego. Thanks for joining us, Joe.
Happy to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I love your name.
Well, I was born in LA. I lived in LA for about 12 years, and then I grew up in Las Vegas and cut my teeth in the business there. I just recently took over the position here at Hard Rock San Diego, but I came from Hard Rock Las Vegas and another iconic brand, which was their Rehab Beach Club.
I've been there.
Oh, you have? Well,
yeah.
Then I've got incriminating evidence then.
No question.
But luckily, I got into the nightclub business right at the nightclub boom in Las Vegas. So I started out at Studio 54, which is another iconic name, rolled into Pure Management Group and Pure Nightclub, LAX Nightclub. And then through my career, I went to MGM Grand Detroit, handled their entertainment for a while, and then ended up settling up with the Hard Rock brand. And like I said, this is my second stint coming from Hard Rock Vegas to the beautiful Hard Rock San Diego.
Well, your name is certainly perfect for what you do. What are your responsibilities as the director of bars and entertainment?
Pretty much, if it's fun and exciting, I get to deal with it. And that's the best part of my job. So my job is to create memorable experiences for our guests in the bars and entertainment field. It's everything from creating pool concerts to big nightlife events. We just had a huge one for New Year's Eve. We had Pauly D on our main stage with Kid Ink on our Legend stage, 5,000 people. It was crazy.
Wow, that really is.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it actually made me nostalgic for Vegas because that's the kind of stuff we do, and that's what I'm hoping to bring to San Diego. You know, there's a lot of competition for the people that come to San Diego, and especially in the Gaslamp district where we're at, and so it's creating those memorable experiences that people take with them and then tell their friends about and want to come back.
I've been at the Hard Rock in Vegas and stayed there and been at that rehab pool, which is just insane. How different are the Hard Rock hotels across the country? Does each one create a different experience, or are they all run more autonomously?
It's a little bit of both. Each property has its own personality. When you're in Vegas, it's a gunfight because you have gigantic. It is, and that's the best analogy I can use because you have gigantic talent on every corner. Whereas you come to San Diego, it's just a lot more laid back. You don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about Celine Dion being across the street,
right?
Or Deadmau5 or Diplo or any of these big name acts being across the street here in San Diego. I just have to make sure I have a good party and a good experience. And if I have one of those days where I do have big name talent, I'm usually the only show in town. When you're in Vegas, man, you better bring your A game every day. Otherwise, you're dead in the water. So it comes down to is building what those individual experiences are for those guests when they come in, which is, again, what we're doing here in San Diego, which is bringing some of that high-octane mentality to this property.
So how do you go about doing that? How do you create a good experience?
Well, it starts from boots on the ground. You know, you can do nothing without a good, well-trained line-level staff. That's our best recruiting tool. That's our best advertising. That is our best road to success. Is so revamping the staff, making sure that they're trained right with all the knowledge. One of the things that frustrates me when I go somewhere, and if I go to, let's say, the front desk of a hotel, or I go to a hostess at a restaurant, and I say, hey, what's going on property? And they can't tell me, but they have all this entertainment booked or all these activations going. It's very frustrating, but it's very frustrating for the guest. It's very frustrating also for the management who put all this stuff together. They don't see the guest's perspective when they plan this stuff, or their team members. So they put all this time to building these experiences in these events, and they just assume everybody who's been working on them knows what they know. And it's channeling that information down to that line level. So once you build your line level, that's your foundation. You can build up from there. So that's how you start. And everything else you just stack on. I mean, social media is important, marketing is important. But if you do not have a good line level staff, you're not going to be successful.
I think a lot of people can take that advice to heart, even from creating an experience. If you're not at a big resort, but if you're at a restaurant and even say, a smaller vacation destination, to know what's going on in the city and know what's going on in the town helps that brand, set themselves apart as, man, they're really in tune with the guest and helping the guests.
Yeah, it comes down to, again, it's training. One of the things I always look to is Disney and Disneyland. I'm a Disney nut. I grew up, I'm a giant child.
Yeah.
I'm just as likely to throw a temper tantrum in the middle of Disneyland as a 4-year-old, just because of my love for that place. But if you go up to one of the attendants attending the garbage, or you go up to one of the street sweepers, they have just as much knowledge as the person who's dressed as Mickey Mouse. And that's something that's in the culture. And that's what my experience with the Hard Rock is. You build that culture and you're able to create the vibe that everything is great.
Have you created buyer personas for the different customers at the Hard Rock? It's such an iconic brand, and it seems to defy age. There was tons of young kids at that rehab place, but then you had places for everybody there, or something for everybody to do.
Well, something I was really surprised about when I got to Hard Rock Vegas, and that's really stuck with me coming here to San Diego, is how many people really love the Hard Rock brand and what it stands for. I saw a study, and I believe Hard Rock is like number 4 strongest brand in the world. And where it's really, really strong is in Europe. It has got an incredible pull. So I would see guests that come to the Hard Rock just to buy pins or just to take pictures
Get a
with the
t-shirt,
memorabilia.
right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, those Hard Rock T-shirts, you see them around the world. And then rest in peace, the Rehab brand. Rehab just had its finale last year, and they're going through a renovation, so they're going to come up with a new concept. But I would wear that Rehab shirt. I went to Prague, and people knew what Rehab was in Prague. You have that guest that is loyal to the brand. And then you have another set of guests where they remember the Hard Rock of their youth, where you have your 60, 65, and sometimes 70-year-olds that they remember going to see the Doors in concert, and they can see the Doors memorabilia on the walls, or the Rolling Stones in '68, and or CBGBs. Like here at the Hard Rock San Diego, we have a piece of a wall at CBGB's on display. So they come in for that memorabilia. You then have another guest that comes in because Hard Rock is a trendy brand and that's what they want. And it's kind of known for there's always something going on here. And then now we're getting another type of customer that is here for our nightlife style of events. And that's where we do like the pool concerts and the party. And here, our big beach pool party is called Sunburn. And Sunburn is a party where we have 1,500 to 2,000 people every Saturday, and we'll have world-class DJs, and it's a great time.
Sounds like an extension of Rehab there.
It's San Diego's version. I hate to say it's like Rehab because it's got its own unique personality, and it's got its own following on its own. So it's a lot of fun, though. It's definitely built in the same vein.
So since you've been in San Diego, are there any experiences that you've been able to create or be a part of?
Well, I've only been here for a few months, and
Right.
We got to do a big party on Halloween, and we just did New Year's Eve, and now we're planning for Sunburn 2019. These parties that we do encompass the whole hotel, where that is something that I'm definitely not used to. Usually it's contained to whatever entertainment venues we have. Well, with this particular party, we have every ballroom space available. We have part of the hotel rooms available. The restaurants are open. And it's a controlled chaos. It's pandemonium in the best way. So, yeah, I've had some definitely memorable moments in my short time here, and I'm looking forward to building a lot more.
So the ideation of all these crazy parties and interesting pools and those type of stuff, does that come from an internal process, or do you use outside consultants to do that, or do any testing to figure out, hey, this is going to work or this isn't going to work?
It's a little bit of both. It's coming down to is, when you build a party like this, you're usually starting 4 months out. So let's put it this way: for pool season, I'm starting my planning usually around November. For here, it was November, but in prior years, I'm usually a year out. And it comes down to is trying to analyze what kind of guest are we looking for? Who are we trying to bring in? Then you'll try to circle the talent. And then you go, okay, now how do I get these people here? And sometimes you do outside promoters and outside consultants. Here at Hard Rock San Diego, we use a couple. There's a company called RMD. They're a great partner for us. And there's another one called Party Naked, which that's their name. But they're fantastic concept people. And we work with them to drive a great experience out here. But it really depends on the market and who you're trying to reach out to. A lot of the energy is internal, and it's a matter of utilizing the internal resources.
Yeah, like you had said earlier, you got to have that frontline staff that believes in it and can pull it off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
In my experience, a good learning lesson for me is that when I was at Studio 54, we wanted to build an industry party, and that party didn't really exist in Las Vegas at that time. Now they're commonplace. Everybody has an industry night. But there, it just didn't exist. And so we had a team meeting, and everybody came together. Off the clock, we all walked in, and there may have been an open bar I don't really remember. That's a good thing.
Probably was, since you can't remember.
Exactly. But we came up with a concept, and it was called Erotically Delicious Entertainers Night, Eden. And this was every Tuesday. And it was kind of one of the things where I know a lot of people say, who's going to come to a nightclub on a Tuesday in Las Vegas? And it turned out to be the most successful Tuesday night in the history of that town. I think it ran for something like 12 years.
Wow.
It was just as strong as our Friday. And then, like I said, that's commonplace. Everybody has industry nights now. Matter of fact, you actually build that into your budget every year. Is okay, we're going to have an industry night, and you put a lot of energy into it. And that was all built by the staff that worked there. So, that's something that we've done here too, is we're in the process of building a night here in San Diego that's just built by the staff and their ideas, and they have their buy-in. And it's not just, some suit upstairs came down with a concept and this is what we got to do. They actually have skin in the game now, and they're very excited about it. So it's fun. It's a great morale builder.
Speaking of energy, the photos that you have on your website are really exciting. How do you go about creating those special images? Because I think it looks different than Vegas.
Well, there's a couple of ways we do it, and there definitely is a strategy behind it. The first is when we're going to have a great event, we know to have a photographer on staff, because there's a lot of content you're going to get organically through the event that is going to translate better than anything you could stage at any given time. So that is the first thing. Whenever we build a big time event, we make sure that we have really good photographers and that they're available and they can capture the moment. The second part is if we're going to stage a photo, we're going to make sure that it doesn't look contrived. We're going to make sure that we have the best atmosphere, the best weather, the best lighting. We're going to put everything in the best possible light it can be to be easily consumed. Because I think we've all seen those photos or those videos online, and just they're overproduced, and
right. Especially in the casino business, everybody's just all the they're happy winners, and and it just looks all fake.
I don't see people looking happy all the time.
Casinos. Well, that's a whole nother podcast.
Right.
I mean, we could talk about that all day long, because there's nobody throwing up, there's nobody getting mad, there's nobody throwing things. That's the second part, is you want to make sure that everything looks organic. And then the third is make sure that you have the best people doing it. We have a vibe manager here, James Gibbs, and he is responsible for making sure that all of our content we shoot or that we use is really well. And that's a position that they have at the Hard Rocks that I haven't seen anywhere. In Las Vegas, we had a guy named Bo Dobney who would come in, and before him is Warwick Stone, that used to set up all of our displays to make sure all the content looked great. And then again, it's creating those experiences where you're going to get great shots.
Does everyone who works at Hard Rock have a great name? Wow.
It's one of those places where people with unique names definitely gravitate to.
Let's switch a little bit to the customer experience in terms of complaints and feedback. How important is that to you? How much attention do you pay to customer feedback?
A lot. And that's a very simple answer for that question, because that's your life's blood. Someone can have a good time and they're like, yeah, it was great. And then they go about their day and it's forgettable. I mean, we've all stayed in hundreds of hotels.
Right.
And they're forgettable.
Right.
And then what you remember is the special experiences and the bad ones. So that's where I try to focus. When you have an incredibly bad experience, that's what I want to talk about, because that's my best opportunity to turn you into a lifelong customer. And so that's why I focus on it.
Is the customer always right, or are you looking for certain things, certain variables that might change how you approach something?
Well, the customer is definitely not always right. That's an old adage that I would see on inspirational posters and whatnot. Customer is not always right. However, you never tell the customer that they're wrong. And I think that's the difference, because it's about a pivot. Unfortunately, in our business, there are times when you have to tell a guest no, whether it's no because they can't do something or no because you don't have it available. It's how do you pivot? And I think that's the keystone of my management, my leadership style, is how do you pivot? How do you turn this negative experience into a better one? One of the things that drives me nuts is when a bad experience happens and nobody tells me, or I find out when it's too late to do anything about it.
Yeah, when it's posted on Twitter or on Facebook.
Oh yeah, it's too late. So
right.
One of the mantras I have for all of my room managers is no complaint gets off the deck. If a complaint gets to the front desk, we lost. So you need to make sure that you tackle that complaint in the room. Look, sometimes life happens.
No question.
You cannot protect for every eventuality that may happen. That being said, 90% of the problems that people complain about are very fixable. They're very controllable. And it's just a matter of knowing that there is a problem and getting there to fix it. So, yeah, I mean, my job, when I have a guest come into my property, I tell my staff is we want these people to leave with a story. And that's it. Because you can go stay at a Marriott or a W or anything, and it's a nice room and it's a great experience. When you come to the Hard Rock, you want to leave with a story. Dude, it was the greatest bachelorette party ever. You'll never believe who showed up. You'll never believe what happened. You'll never believe the girl I met. You'll never believe the celebrities I got to hang out with. That's what you want. You want them to go back to wherever they're from and tell a story. And especially when I'm talking to bottle service guests, bottle service isn't cheap. We had tables go for, $5,000-$7,000 for New Year's Eve. These people spend a lot of money on that. And a lot of them save up just for New Year's Eve.
Right.
When they leave, the one thing I don't want them to go, dude, I spent $7,000 on that. I want them to go, I spent $7,000 and I wish I would have spent 10.
That gives me a lot to think about.
No question. Yeah, that's great.
So I read somewhere that 80% of CEOs believe they deliver a superior customer experience, but only 8% of customers agree. How do you combat that?
Well, one, it's important that CEO spends some time on the floor. Our executive management team is on the floor quite a bit. This is probably the most engaged property I've ever been in, where our vice presidents, general managers, everybody is on the floor and they're touching guests and they're asking them where they're from and how is their check-in. And it's the only place I've ever been where I've seen a vice president pick up a dish.
Wow.
I've seen it happen here. So there's a level of camaraderie at this property that I haven't seen in a very long time, and it's very refreshing. So a lot of the CEOs that say that, I think, unfortunately, aren't as in touch with their customer as they'd like to be. And I think that's what it is they'd like to be because they're so busy, they're doing other things. But how do you combat that is you got to get on the floor. You've got to, especially if you're in the service industry, if you are not on the floor, you have no idea what's going on in your property.
Do you secret shop yourself?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You have to for a myriad of reasons, not just for the guest experience, but to make sure stuff's not going out the back door. California just enacted a new straw law where you cannot offer a straw to a guest unless they ask for it, which, listen, I'm not going to get into the politics of, saving the turtles. But that's the law of the land, and we have to follow it.
I saw that over in D.C. when I was there visiting. I don't think it's a law, but they've enacted the same type of policy at their restaurant as well.
Oh yeah, it's a law here, and it's $500 per occurrence.
Wow.
So
Oh my
it's
gosh.
500. Yeah, exactly. So they're not messing around.
So you don't have plastic straws on the property.
Well, they have to ask for it.
Well, that's the whole thing. You have to ask for it. And there's a lot of logistics around that too. Like I said, I don't want to get too into the politics of it, but you have to go shop your people just to make sure they're following that policy. So you don't end up at the end of the month with a ticket for, $15,000 because your guys just wanted to hand out straws.
And I'm sure they have straw police everywhere.
You know what? Wouldn't shock me. It definitely wouldn't shock me. But that's what it comes down to is, the guest experience is important. But one of the mantras that our GM, Matt Green, says is, inspect what you expect. And you have to live that. If it's great to put out a policy or an SOP, but if you're not following up to see if that policy is being followed, then you're wasting your time.
Right.
Do you use an outside service to do or secret shop, or do you just hand a few bucks to a buddy and say, here, go in, do this? I think a lot of people in the tourism hospitality don't secret shop their own place. That's why I'm asking the question.
I've done it both ways.
Okay.
If I have the budget, yes, I'll use an outside service. If I don't have the budget, I'll go out and say, okay, just give me the receipt for whatever you spend and I'll take care of it. But, sometimes too, is your staff is a lot smarter than you give them credit for. So a lot of times they can sniff out a secret shopper. Matter of fact,
Yeah, they can.
Oh yeah, I came from a couple of Forbes properties, and it was almost like a game is to try to sniff out the Forbes shopper. And my apologies to Jennifer Lodge and all the nice people at Forbes, but we caught them 90% of the time. So you really have to be smart about doing that. But you're going to get a lot more from just talking to your guests. Nothing beats being on the floor and actually having that tactile experience of touching your guests. And how was your meal? How was your cocktail? How was your stay? You'll get so much more from that than you'll ever get from some shopper's report.
So what would you say is the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of my job, I think, is time management because there are so many things that are critical. Your marketing has to hit this timeline. Your menus have to hit this timeline. Your entertainment's got to hit this timeline. Then you have the timelines throughout the day. I think that is probably the most difficult part of my job. The great thing about my job is I love my job. Now, granted, I wouldn't do it for free, But at the same time, if you have to work for a living, this is the job you do, because literally all I do is make sure people have a good time. That's it. And once you focus on that, look, I'm not saving lives. I'm not splitting the atom. I'm not trying to cure world hunger.
No, you're
I'm trying to make sure
entertaining. Yeah.
I'm entertaining and having a good time. And if you can't find the joy and come into work from that, then you're in the wrong business. So when it comes down to what's hard, it's the time management, because I don't care how good an event goes, you can always do better. And so you end up being hypercritical. Like, you know what? If we would have just done this, or we would have just done that, or there was a bachelorette party over here. We would have done a champagne spray in that cabana. It could have been so much better. So I think that's it. The time management, and then I think the Monday morning quarterbacking are the two toughest parts of my job.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you guys powwow after
Oh,
an
absolutely.
event and say what went right, what went wrong?
What could have made it better? Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, you have to. You have to. I don't think I've ever, I've had some pretty just killer events that I'm incredibly proud of. And I don't think I've ever, after the event, no matter how good it went, you know what, that was perfect. I wouldn't change a thing. I don't think I've ever done that.
No. How quickly after the event do you get everybody together?
We're usually about 4 days. So like for New Year's Eve, plan on doing that on Friday, especially if it's an incredibly taxing event. The other part is making sure that your staff is well rested, because it makes for some very, very long hours. And it's hard on your staff. So if you schedule a meeting for the next day or even the day after, they're not fully recovered yet. You need time to digest what happened, how the night actually went, look at the numbers, and actually have some feedback for your team to get the ball rolling.
That's the hardest part. Now, I'm going to throw you one that's a little bit tougher. Hard Rock's opening a hotel in Duluth, and they're transferring you, Joe.
Well, they'd never open one in Duluth.
How do you create that crazy experience in Duluth?
Well, I think you got to do a cheese and beer festival, right? I think that's the way to go. You know what? When I was at Hard Rock Vegas, I remember the discussion about opening Hard Rock Sioux City, Iowa.
There you go. Same thing. Maybe a little warmer.
Yeah. I remember those conversations. And, how are we going to make this work? People want to be entertained wherever they're at. There's two things that people always have $1 for, and it's for their kids and for a drink, always. And so if you create some place where they can go and they can kind of do a mild escape where they have a cocktail, be with their friends, be with interesting people, and create a great experience, people are going to go there. So to open up a Hard Rock in Duluth, as silly as it sounds, it's not a crazy idea. It's just a matter of putting the right people in the right place and giving them the right tools to be successful. And if you did that, if you do those couple of things, you're going to have a rocking place. Think about how many destinations are out of the way that people make it a point to get to because they're that awesome. And so it's creating that experience and then let everybody know about it.
So you can be awesome anywhere.
You can be awesome anywhere. I remember I was the general manager of entertainment for MGM Grand Detroit. And I remember people going, Detroit, that's crazy.
Yeah,
yeah,
same thing.
Detroit. I'm going to tell you this, first of all, that property is gorgeous. The $1 billion property in the heart of Detroit. And people that came out, they were coming out to have a great time. And people came from all over the outskirts. We have a great mix of people, and it was a ton of fun. But you wouldn't think so because that's before Detroit really, it's going through a renaissance right now.
Right.
But this was a 2009, 10-ish where, it wasn't that. So it's just a matter of if you build the right product, people, I hate to sound, field of dreams, but if you build it, they will come.
Right.
Yeah. Now, granted, there are places that are, layups.
Yeah.
If we're going to go someplace, I'd rather go someplace where, there's flow of
Waikiki
traffic.
Beach, right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But at the same time, it comes down to is just putting the right people in the right places and giving them the tools to work.
Well, I think it's a great job, man. I think I missed my calling.
Yeah, I love your energy.
It's fun. I truly love what I do. I truly love what I do, and I love the people I do it with. And then I have my support system at home. My wife, when I say, "Hey, guess what? We're going to San Diego," she's like, "All right, I'll start packing." She's the best. She's been in the industry for a long time, so and I think that's a trick too. Is you have to have good people at home. I'll have a day where I'm hanging out with Rob Gronkowski or a bunch of WWE wrestlers or Justin Bieber or something like that, and then when you get home, trash still has to go out.
Right. Keeps you grounded.
Hey, big shot. By the way, there's a leak in the water heater. So it's very important that you have a great person at home that keeps you grounded.
Well, tonight when you come home, tell her about the promotion you got to Duluth and see if she starts packing.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. My wife's the best. The first thing she would say is, "Let's go." So.
That's great.
Actually, no. First question would be, is the money right? And then the second question would be, let's go.
Right.
Well, Joe, we certainly
So
loved hearing about all that you do. What's the best way to connect with you?
it depends. Facebook's great, but my LinkedIn, if it's for business,
Yeah.
is ideal. And then, of course, my email. My email is joe.bravo@hardrockhotelsd.com. That's the lifeblood for my business. But yeah, that's the best way to get hold of me.
Well, thank you so much, Joe, and best of luck to you.
Thank you. And if there's anything else you need, feel free to call.
All
Great,
right.
Joe. Thanks.
And if you like what you've heard, please don't forget to share, review, and subscribe to Brandstorm.
This is Dan Trzynski along with Nancy Christopher at Platypus Advertising and Design, an awesome company that creates perceptions that influence choice for a variety of regional, national, and even global brands on a daily basis. We hope you'll join us next week for another episode of Brandstorm.